Alright, I just finished making my Linux box a DHCP server. Well, now I want to make it a DNS server. So how do I do that? Well, first I need to install DNS. Um, -y install bind. Bind is like Berkeley Internet Name Daemon or something like that. That's the DNS server packages for Linux that most everybody uses. And we're going to install it in a rooted environment. I'll explain what that means in a little while. So we're installing DNS. What do we need DNS for? We need DNS for mapping names to IPs, right? Pretty exciting stuff. DNS config basically consists of two real parts. There is a named.conf file that has the main configuration file for the named daemon, and then there's a number of zone files for each of your domains. So the package was installed in a rooted environment, which means that we need to find where it went. Var named var named root. So a rooted environment, I'm not sure how people say that. Basically, it changes the root. So the top of the Linux file system is called the root of the file system, and that is denoted by the slash. A single slash is the top of the root of the Linux file system. With a changed root, you create a fake root, and then you have a program that runs within there. So what that does is that effectively isolates that program from the rest of the system. So if someone were to hack your DNS server, they would not be able to see everything else on the system. They would, in theory, only be able to see all the stuff that exists below this fake root we created, this root we changed to. So all of the files we will need to be worried about are going to be in this root directory. So when you get started on this process, everything you're going to be working with is going to be under var named root. Many students over many semesters have been working in the wrong places and wondered why things don't work, and that's why, because you're in the wrong places. So we have some files we need to work with in here. We may need to get our sample files from Desire to Learn. I'm going to go see what's in there. So the main config file is in the etc directory, and it's called named.conf, which we don't have. So we're going to go to the browser. We're going to go to MyHack. We're going to, oh no, Java support's been turned off. Whatever are we going to do? We're going to go to MyHack. We're going to go to Desire to Learn. I go to MyHack first because I don't even know my password to get directly into Desire to Learn. We're going to go to Desire to Learn. We're going to go to CNT220. CNT220. We're going to go look at everybody's grades so we can make fun of people that aren't doing that well. I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. We're going to go to Content. We're going to go to hopefully a module about DHCP. Application layer. We're going to go to DHCP and DNS, and we're going to hopefully have some sample files. Yeah, we have a sample named file, and we're going to have a sample. What? And we're going to have a sample. And we're going to have a sample. And we're going to have a sample zone file. You hear all that extra noise in the background. That's Mr. Brown being rude while I'm trying to make podcasts in here, making all kinds of noise. It's terrible, isn't it? Guy trying to work and other guy won't leave him alone and stuff. It's usually me that won't leave him alone, but sorry. All right, so we got our files somewhere. Named.conf. I saved it to the root. What's that? He was just hitting me. Stop. Someone call for help. So we have our sample files we download, named.conf. We'll copy that to this local. Actually, I'll move it. Move/named.conf to dot means the current directory. So now I have a named.conf file. And we'll go get the other one in a little while when we need it. So essentially, in your zone file, you tell it a couple things. You know, allow query, allow recursions. These are some settings you can change stuff. Essentially, I'm letting anybody ask for queries. I'm going to create a domain name. In this case, I've created a fake cnt220.org domain name, and I have a zone file called var named cnt220.org.zone. So what should you do in your file? Well, you should probably go in here and change this. I'll actually change it to something else, you know, to rich.org. Rich.org. Right, that looks good. And then I will go to my other location I need to go to. What location is that, Rich? Oh, I don't know. Let's see what our file said we have. Our other location is var named rich.org.zone. So that's going to need to be the name of my zone file. So here's where we need to worry about that chrooted nonsense. That's not the real var. That's not the /var. That's not that. That's the fake var. So we need to cd back up, and we need to go into this fake var, right? Not the real var, the fake var. Var named chroot var. And then we need to go into, what did it say? Named. And then we need a zone file in there. I don't have a zone file in there because my zone file was at what was my zone file called? CNT220. So I need to copy that to the current location, and I want to call it rich.org.zone. Why do I want to call it that? Because that's what I told it was going to be called right here, where it says file, rich.org.zone. Now I'm going to edit this file. And then I'm going to go make some changes to change everything that says CNT220 to rich.org.zone. 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 Hey, look at that. Rich. Oh, dang it. That's not what I wanted. Oops. Rich.org.zone. If you do CW with the first character and do change word, you can change it to rich, and then put the cursor on the first character the next time you're going to change it and hit the period. That'll change it again. So I'm going to do that. There's even better ways to be even more lazy, but I'm not going to do that right now. So in this case, I have some fake names and I have some fake IP addresses. I'll go ahead and change these fake names and IP addresses to match my fake network I'm using. Oops. So we have with DNS we have different types of records. This is a SOA record, start of authority. This contains some information about how the server should manage this information. So if we haven't talked about it yet, you know, DNS is a global thing. Everybody who wants to have websites and name servers have their own name server, and then essentially I'll ask my name server a question, and my name server will try to find the answer for me, or will tell me who else to ask. One of those is recursive, one of those are iterative way of resolving queries, and then essentially we'll just ask a bunch of other name servers on the network internet to find the information we need. This serial number, in theory, every time you make a change, you should increment this because the other name servers use this number to know if changes have been made. These values tell how the server should work, and the time to live is how often you should ask queries and that kind of stuff. Free domain, you need to define name servers. Those are so people can find out what domains what servers answer for your domain, and they would also have to be configured at your registry, so people know, oh, you just went out to GoDaddy and registered richesthebest.org. Where do I find out IPs for that? Well, you have to tell them what name servers, the IP addresses of name servers to ask questions about. These are some MX records. These are for mail exchangers. So in theory, if you had a mail server set up, you would need to have your MX record to match the mail server. Here we have A records, address records that match some names to some IPs. We have two different kinds in here. Here I put a fully qualified domain name with a record, and here we just use a short name. One thing you might notice is this extra period at the end. That is actually correct. Domain names really end in a period. That's just the way it is. Here's some more short names, and then down here I have some C names, which stands for canonical name, which instead of being an actual IP address, it points to a name that's defined somewhere else in the server. So if somebody were to query my domain for www, what the name server does is it looks at server 1 and then finds the address for server 1, and that's the address that gets returned for the query. That's helpful if you have one server that does a bunch of stuff. Instead of having a bunch of A records with the same IP address, you can have one A record and then a bunch of C names. And then if you need to change the IP address, you have to change it in one place instead of changing it everywhere. So that's it for my domain name and my zone. So now I'm going to start my DNS server and hope it starts. Service name D start. Cross your fingers. Okay, it started. So now if I do some NS lookups, I set my server to localhost, and I look up rich1, I should hopefully get an answer. Maybe not, because I don't have a domain name set. We'll wait till it fails. Yeah, can't find. So if I do rich1.rich.org, I actually had server 1. That's going to fail because I got some extra characters on there. Let's go to my var named root var file named, and we look at my zone file. See some of the names I've configured. So I have server 1. I don't think I have a name rich1 in here anywhere, so that's probably why it didn't work. So if I look up server1.rich.org, it should give me an IP address, and there it gave me an IP address, so that proves that my query was working. Let's see what else I have. I have mail. I wonder if one name will work. Mail. Nope, I don't have my domain name set, so that's why it's not working right now. So that didn't work because I didn't specify the full path again, the full domain name again. So I will set the full domain name, and then I'll get an answer back for that. So that's pretty much the basics of proving my domain name worked. My DNS server worked. So now the question becomes, is it going to work for my, that's not what I wanted, for my, where's my stupid Windows machine? For my Windows machine. So basically, if we look in here at the internet, IP config, I have an IP, my name server is still my router, allegedly. My name server is still my router. Where the heck is it? There it is. I'm going to go change my DHCP config. Oh my gosh, I have to remember something we did 5 minutes ago? That's ridiculous. How ridiculous is that? That's very ridiculous. So I'm going to change my DHCP config to set my name server to be my new name server. And then I'm going to restart, service DHCPD restart. I'm going to release and renew my address. Ipconfig release, ipconfig renew. Ipconfig renew. And then I'm going to look at everything. And now my DNS server is listed as my Linux server. So now if I do an NS lookup for www.rich.org, which is my new domain, if this works, then I'm feeling pretty happy because I'm kind of done with that part of the lab. And it gave me my address, so that's good. So if I had a web server working, actually, why don't I go ahead and do, nah, I'm not going to do that. That'd give away too much information for future labs, so I'm not going to do that. And hopefully I should be able to get an address for Google. Google.com, so I got Google.com, so the internet should be working again. Google, I bet that's some sort of bad site that wants to give me bad malware and stuff. Google. So the internet's working. So right now, what we've done is we've configured a bunch of DHCP and a bunch of DNS servers. So right now I have it set up so that my Linux box is resolving DNS requests from my host. It is answering for my specified domain of rich.org, and then that domain name, and then anything it doesn't know the answer to, it's asking the router, and then the router is answering stuff, and anything the router doesn't know the answer to, it is asking the hack DNS server. So let's look at